Hey everybody, welcome back to Travel Trailer Nation. Our 4,195-mile trip was well underway, and it was obvious that no two campgrounds are alike at this point. Some places leave you wondering why you ever spent money to stay there, and others remind you just how enjoyable RV travel can be. After our disappointing stay at the Joplin KOA, we were ready to move on, and fortunately, the next stop would turn out to be one of the best little RV parks we've stayed at in a long time. So let's continue with the journey. Fortunately, we didn't have very far to travel to find it either. After a relatively short travel day, we pulled into the I-55 RV park in Edwardsville, Illinois. Man, what a difference. This is a wonderful new campground, and the owners, Jeff and Kim, couldn't have been more accommodating and friendly. Kim was off site when I arrived, and I'd gone up to the office to register, which is a kind of a small little outbuilding. And their Ring doorbell picked me up, and Kim told me to just go to my site and we would settle up later, which really worked great for me because Eva and Trent, I think, were ready to get out of the truck. I'm really happy when we find a campground that's small and well maintained, and this is certainly the case at the I-55 RV park. I also like supporting small businesses, so if you like to do the same, I would strongly encourage you to visit these folks. The sites at the I-55 RV park are gravel, but very level. And I'm not sure that I really have anything negative to say about this campground other than there's a little road noise. And I'm only bringing that up because I know quite a few campers are a little bit sensitive to it. But regardless, you won't hear it inside your trailer. You're very close to St. Louis here, so there's plenty to do. So what might a 12-year-old like Trent enjoy? Well, how about a trip to the City Museum in St. Louis and then later on to the Arch? So that was our plan. And the second day of our stay, we first had to head to La Beste Pet Resort and Spa in Edwardsville. It's probably about a 15-minute ride from the campground. And they have a very, very good rating online, and I can see why. They really took good care of Eva while the three of us headed first to the museum and then later to the Arch. I will say that the City Museum wasn't at all what Tammy had envisioned, as it's really more tailored to small children. However, Trent still found a lot to do there, and we all tackled some of the very long slides, including one 5-story tightly coiled one, and actually beat the crap out of my feet and knees. It was so tightly coiled, and Trent too. And so I don't think it was really designed for adults or tall kids like Trent. And the museum also serves food, which gave us a convenient place to grab something to eat, although I would say that the prices weren't very cheap. If it hadn't been raining that day, because we started getting rain maybe an hour after we got there, we would have been able to go to the roof and ride their large Ferris wheel, and I think there's a slide up there also. So that was a little disappointing, but we still had a good time. Now, we went on to the Arch after that, and the highlight obviously of St. Louis was the Arch. It's incredibly hard to find the entrance as it's not really near the footings, which is where I guess if you've never been there before, you're expecting it to be. But it is back quite a ways from those. And once you enter, you'd swear you were in an airport because it doesn't just look like an airport. It also has airport-like security, and it looks very bland inside like an airport. Now, once you get on the ride, you might think, or when you're heading to it, that you're going to have some comfortable ride to the top of the Arch. Well, think again. You climb into what looks like a 5-seat eggshell with 4 other passengers, and it is a kind of a large step up to get into it, and then its very, very low ceiling is going to greet you as you try to duck and maneuver to an open seat, and you'll almost be sitting on top of each other. And as the small pod climbs to the top of the Arch, it's going to sway occasionally to accommodate the pitch of the Arch. Nothing dramatic, but just be aware that that's going to happen, and it's normal. Once you reach top, you have about 10 minutes to take in the view, and it's really quite a bit smaller at the top of the arch than I imagined. However, it was still a great experience overall, and I think Trent liked it too. And I took a picture, believe it or not, I took a very good picture of my truck from the top of the arch. Zoomed in, it turned out fantastic, and I told Trent I should start a website called My Truck Goes Everywhere, and he laughed. Now I've got some pictures, obviously, that you're seeing of Trent walking up the steps, and that was great. We just had a great time there. But, you know, all too soon it was time to take off and pick up Eva at La Beste and return to the campground. And of course, they gave us a report card of how Eva's day went, which, you know, we always like that kind of thing. And I'll put it up so you can see it. But they said such a sweetie, a little nervous, which is normal for her first day. And she enjoyed her lunch, and she loved playing with the staff and getting a lot of attention, which is nothing new for us to hear, because she is really an affectionate puppy. Now, we were supposed to spend 4 nights at the I-55. Unfortunately, strong thunderstorms are being predicted for that area, and once again, we had to make a decision. Do we stay, take our chances, or do we change our plans? And we decided to leave after only 2 nights. And if you've watched the first video on this trip, you're probably starting to notice a pattern here. Weather was dictating where and when we traveled. So now the search was on for somewhere else to stay. And eventually we found Creek Valley Campground in Dubuque, Iowa, formerly known as the Hoot Owl Hollow Campground. And I looked at the pictures, they looked okay. I read the reviews, they looked okay. So we booked it. That was a big mistake. Hey, Travel Trailer Nation, I have to admit I am very disappointed in my life choices right now. I've never seen a campground like this before, gotta tell you. It's like, how many bricks can you fit in a 5-pound bag? Look at this, this is unfreaking believable. And then the kicker, besides that, which if we have a storm and that goes into my trailer, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. But look at this. You don't realize, apparently, that water and electricity don't go together. So anyway, I know, it's a rant. That's it. And one of the long-term campers had 2 screen rooms set up next to our site, only inches away from our brand new trailer. And apparently those screen rooms can stay up whether campers are actually there or not, because the person that rented that site was absent during our entire stay. And I really wasn't thrilled about, you know, sitting inches away from, you know, a couple screen rooms, because, you know, wind comes up, a storm comes up, and then that thing takes off and decides to go into our trailer. That's going to be real bad news. So just really horrible, way too close. But we weren't done yet. There was a truck parked with the back end and hitch sticking out into the campground's main roadway up by the pool. And to get around it, you had to maneuver between the truck's hitch and the concrete posts that surround the dump station. And that truck just didn't sit there for an hour or 2. It was there for 3 days. The whole time we were there, it was sitting there and very close to the office, where they could have come out at any point, found the guy who owns the truck and say, you got to move it. But nope, that never happened. And then there was our sewer connection, which was also located at the back of the trailer near the water and electric. And, you know, I carry 2 sewer hoses all the time, usually thinking if I get into a spot, 2 will be enough, but not this time. So Trent and I were on the hunt, taking a drive to a store to get another sewer hose, and we weren't alone. The guy across from us ended up doing the same thing. But I think what bothered me the most was what was happening around us. And across from our site, there were 3 trailers that came in together, and they were camping together. And the area around them became one of the biggest messes I've ever seen at a campground. And there were chairs and bikes and clothing, garbage and more just strewn about the shared area they were using. And then they had their kids riding an electric-powered vehicle up and down the campground roads. And these kids looked like they were about 4 years old. And they're going up and down the roads fast, going into other people's camping areas. It was just a nightmare. And then at one point, it sounded like there was some sort of a domestic dispute going on across from our site. And by this point, I was kind of done. I said to Tammy, if we get out of this campground without somebody damaging the Delta, I'll be really happy. And then the part that really kind of hurt was those thunderstorms that we were trying to avoid back at the I-55. They never came. We could have stayed exactly where we were at a campground we loved and avoid this entire mess, but our attempt to avoid bad weather had landed us there, and I was not at all happy with my life choices, and I made that pretty clear in a short that I uploaded. Of course, for Trent, as long as there's a pool and his Gaga will go there with him, he's pretty happy. So they did have a pool, which was well maintained, as were their bathrooms. So Trent was very happy. Find a pool and Trent will be happy. And if there was a pool that was meant for dogs, Eva would be thrilled. There was one upside to our location, and that was a trip to the Field of Dreams movie set just 20 minutes from the campground, and Tammy had always wanted to go there. And what a great time. Trent, who constantly says he's either bored or hungry or both, got a hot dog, popcorn, and a slushie, and Tammy and I got a hot dog and a beer. We sat back and enjoyed the Little League players who were using the field to practice. And with everything that was going on back at the campground, just sitting and watching kids play baseball at the Field of Dreams was a pretty nice change of pace. This really does need to become a regular stop for us on the way up north, and we just need to find a different campground. There was one other Dubuque attraction that we really enjoyed, and that was the Fenelon Place elevator, also known as the 4th Street elevator. It's billed as the world's shortest and steepest scenic railway. The railway is only 296 feet long, but in that short distance, it climbs 189 feet up to Fenelon Place. It's a quick ride to the top, but once you're there, you're going to get a great view of the downtown area of Dubuque, the Mississippi River, and portions of 3 states. It has a really amusing, colorful history, and if you want to read more about it, you can go to their website, Fenelon, which is Fenelon, place, elevator.com, and I'll put a link to it under the video as well. But there's another reason to stop there, and that's at the bottom of the railway. We found La Venta Specialty Coffee. Tammy had a latte while Trent and I had some of the best ice cream we've ever had. And so despite how I felt about the campground, we actually had a really good time exploring Dubuque. And the next morning we left for Wisconsin. Fortunately, we did manage to get the Delta out of the Creek Valley campground without any damage, but just barely. We had to move 2 picnic tables, ours and the one from the unattended screen room site, just to give the Delta enough room for tail swag. Then I had to squeeze between that overhanging trunk and the concrete posts at the dump station, and I gotta say, I don't think I've ever been so relieved to leave a campground. And after this place, we were really ready for something better. And to the folks who think that it's a great campground, well, I think you'll be happy just about anywhere, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I'm just a little too picky. Next, it was on to Wisconsin, where we'd drop Trent off, and Tammy and I would spend the next few weeks at Cliffside Park. And Cliffside Park would turn out to be exactly what we needed. Unfortunately, Mother Nature wasn't finished with us yet. So stay tuned for the next episode.